Who's your, I fucking hate this guy? My brother's uncle. I refuse to claim him. He's an alcoholic and a drug addict that put my grandparents through hell. Some of the gems he said to his mother's face. Why don't you just give me my inheritance now? Why would I want to ruin my Christmas Eve by spending it with you? Then once she died, it was oh boo-hoo. Swore he would put family first. He then proceeded to treat my grandfather like shit. And because Grandpa lived with me, I saw it firsthand. He would say he was coming over on Sunday. So Grandpa would be up at the crack of dawn ready to go. And would be sitting watching out the window like a kid who has divorced parents and is waiting for his dad to show up for his weekend. He would sit there all day. And then be heartbroken when the fucker didn't show up and never called. Listening to my grandfather cry because he was so upset made me see red. Then once Grandpa died, it was all boo-hoo poor me all over again. Since both of my grandparents were now gone, I ripped into him and told him exactly what I thought of him. That was 13 years ago. And it still wasn't enough for me. Recently he told his probation officer that he lived with me, and gave his PO my address. The PO then comes to me looking for him. That was a fun conversation. He's a pathetic, worthless waste of oxygen, and I hope he dies cold, alone, and painfully slowly. These are just a couple examples. But don't even scratch the surface of what a piece of shit he is. The suit guy from Train to Busan. Been a while since a movie made me actually hate someone, but this dude is another level. My best friend moved to a different state. Met a guy and quickly got engaged. She brought him to meet us and he told me how much he made within the first 10 minutes. Asked what I made. Scoffed at the amount. Said he would never live in my apt because we didn't have an elevator. Said he would never be caught dead driving in a car like mine. Also said he buys new cars every 2 years. Talked over my friend constantly. I would ask her a question and he would answer for her. He complained about the amount of money she made and made fun of her job. She's a social worker who works with underage girls that have eating disorders. He styles his mustache to do that pretentious curl thing with wax. Fuck that guy. My ex-best friend, former crush. He was actually my dad's friend first. Even though the guy was like 20 years younger than my dad. And only 3 years older than me. When I first met him, I thought he was a cool dude and we had a lot in common. The thing is though, he loved to drink. Like a lot. I saw him polish off a third of a case of beer on several occasions. Meanwhile I hardly ever drink. And if I do, it's only one drink. But that aside, I still managed to develop a crush on him. He was an attractive guy at the time. After knowing him for a year, I decided to shoot my shot and confess to him. I had never done so before. And haven't since. At first he completely friend-zoned me. But then he would flip-flop and act like he was interested. He constantly held it over my head that I asked him out and would sometimes act like he was interested. And like a naive, love-sick idiot I let him do it. I know I should have told him off. But I never did. So this went on for about 6 months until one fateful night, when he did something so cruel and unforgivable. To make an already long story short, he intentionally took a lit piece of paper and burned my then 8-year-old brother in 3 places. He'd been alone with my brother several times before and nothing ever happened. I never saw him again after that night. My parents rightfully pressed charges. And he was charged with child abuse. Last I heard he got 8 months in jail and like 2 or 3 years probation. Since it was his first offense, every time I think about him all I feel is anger and regret. And sorrow over what my poor brother went through. So yeah, fuck that guy. There was a person who told me he has the right to have sex with a girl in my class because his Father is an independent entrepreneur while the girls is employed at an agency. Not a guy, but my middle school algebra teacher. I got my period at the beginning of class, and she refused to let me go to the bathroom. I bled all over myself for over an hour and had to wear bloody clothes the rest of the day. Fuck you, Mrs. Lin. My ex-boss was a colossal dick. You know this type who are always right, even when they are wrong. Easily passes you any work they deem hard while having this mentality that you are some kind of computer-controlled drone who exists to telepathically know what he needs and when designed to serve him? Guy had this belief that everything can only be done right if done his way. Anything else is faulty even if it's done properly as it's dictated by the client. I still remember this event. I was upside in an attic fixing wiring when I hear this conversation below. Ex-boss. This was made the wrong way. Umbral disappointment is such a useless worker. How can he not understand such a simple task? Boss 2 enters the scene and is not aware of the previous complaints. What's the matter, did John? Other worker. Did something bad with that one? Ex-boss. John did this? Boss 2. Yeah. He just finished an hour ago. Something is wrong? Ex-boss. Nah. It's perfect. Tell him it was good work. Worked as a receptionist at an eye doctor, glasses store for a bit. There was this one dude who I kept needing to call. Confirm exam appointment. Question about order. His glasses are ready. His glasses were ready a week ago and he still hasn't picked them up. Etc. This dude never answered his phone. And his voicemail message was 2 minutes of him acting like he couldn't hear you. Hello? Hello? I can't hear you, etc. And then him saying, just text me, and then you hear the beep for the voicemail machine to start recording. First time I fell for it because he did a genuinely convincing job. Every other time I had to sit through this long-ass thing to be able to actually leave a message. Bet this idiot thought he was so clever and didn't even consider that someone other than his friends would call. No, I can't just text you, from the Vision Center's landline. Hope this guy gets a clue before he applies to jobs with this or something. Fuck that guy. Edit. Thanks to everyone who mentioned the Archer gag. Just watched a compilation on YouTube and it's great. In fiction. Also, all of Archer's voicemail messages are so much shorter than this guy's. Edit 2. Stop trying to give me phone life hacks, I'm not a receptionist anymore. The type of people where you can see right through their bullshit but nobody else can. Any dude whose personality revolves around being alpha. Kenneth Copeland is a good starting point. My neighbor, she's got a meth addiction super crazy. When she gets high she runs up and down the street naked. Has tackled me 4 times to save me from aliens, and she once called the police and said I murdered a baby in her closet. Don't do meth, kids, then you will be like trailer trash Tammy. My sister. Pretty sure she's a sociopath. Manipulates and takes advantage of weaker people. Refuses to get help, even though she calls herself crazy. There were these 2 stereotypical dumb fuckboys at my last job. Inconsiderate. Blasting loud shitty trap music. Talked about how they both have hoes for days, show up to work drunk or high. Never talked about anything intelligent. Fuck, I couldn't stand those fuckers. Bobby Kotick. This guy ruined so many good games. Ruined Blizzard. Overlooked sexual assault and is going to walk away with tens of millions for being fired. Technically, resigned. So yeah, fuck that guy. A former HS teammate of mine was just a huge jerk to everyone, and what pissed me off the most about him was his IG stories would be about how God wants you to be a really nice person. Mind you, I'm religious too, I'm not knocking that part. But then he's a complete jackass IRL. Had it out for me specifically since day one. The only dude on this planet I genuinely hate. A guy who bullied me for 3 years straight for fun. I used to work as a receptionist for an OB office, and there was a patient's husband that we all loathed. He called his wife a fat cow in front of the nurse. When she was in the hospital having baby number 9 and needed an emergency C-section, the hospital had to get security involved because he was blocking the door so they couldn't take her to the OR. He refused to let her have a hysterectomy even though she had a lot of medical issues that could have been resolved by that. She didn't legally need his permission, but they were Amish, so she submitted to him. He made her try for a vaginal delivery after a C-section even though it was more risky. He wouldn't let her take insulin for her gestational diabetes. I came to the conclusion that he was trying to make her die without actually pulling the trigger. Physically, he was an absolute monster, and I still think about her and wonder if she's okay. 6 years later, I still remember her name. So I have played in bands in many areas and on many different stages. This covers more of a type of guy. It's the dude who is in a local band that are popular and now think that because they buy views on YouTube that they are the next big thing, and will bring the scene back, and look down on every other band. But their band are actually not as good as they think they are. The kind that has more merch than songs and the music is just a bit meh. All bands are doing the same thing. Support and lift up the local bands. Network and celebrate when they do well. It isn't that hard to just not be a complete egotistical dick.
That guy.
My 30-something-year-old neighbor. We share a property line with this clown. I planted a row of lilac bushes almost 25 years ago, and he wants me to take them out because he says they block the sun from his garden. The lilacs are planted well on our side of the property line, but he thinks that his fence was built 2 feet into his property and that the lilacs are really on his property. This has been going on for over 3 years. So I shelled out 3 kelvins for a survey, and lo and behold, the property line is exactly where I thought was 3 feet from my lilac hedge. A fence is being erected as soon as the ground thaws. Fuck him.
If you enjoyed this video, please check out our playlists full of similar content. Epic Eracast is like doom scrolling for your ears. Please like, share, and subscribe.